Hello everybody, are you all okay? We are now in week 11. This is the second part of chapter 8. Ready? Let's continue. After this lesson, students must be able to learning objectives. 1. Explain the definition of process costing. 2. Explain characteristics of process costing and the differences in terms of product types, cost accumulation, cost flows and documentation. We have done this too in the first part. For this lecture, the learning objective are 3. Explain the definition of equivalent units. 4. Explain transferred in cost. 5. Explain the concept of transferred in cost from previous department. We are going to start with equivalent units. Well, in this chapter, we will have to calculate the equivalent units first.
Explain the definition of equivalent units. Ending work is partially completed in the process. Measure the work done during the period, expressed in fully completed units. This concept is used to determine the cost per unit of completed product. An equivalent unit of production is an indication of the amount of work done by manufacturers who have partially completed units on hand at the end of an accounting period. For example, if there are 200 incomplete units in a process at the end of a period and they are 75% complete, then this is equivalent to 150, 200 times 0.75, whole, complete, units. Basically, the fully completed units and the partially completed units are expressed in terms of fully completed units.
The example to calculate the equivalent units. There are 3 partially complete units with 50% percentage of process complete. Therefore 50% x 3 partially complete units is equivalent to 1.5 complete units. So the equivalent units here is 1.5. The formula to find the equivalent unit is as shown. Equivalent units equals completed unit add percent partially completed units. Example to find the equivalent unit is shown. Calculation of product cost per unit / cost per equivalent unit. Cost per equivalent unit equals cost of beginning add cost incurred in current period, divided by the equivalent unit. Example, weighted average. First step is to compute the equivalent unit. EU equals completed unit plus partially complete unit x percent complete. Cost per equivalent unit equals total cost divided by the equivalent unit. Cost per equivalent unit equals RM135 divided by 4.5 equals RM30 per unit. Adding the direct materials in the process depend whether it's in the beginning, in the middle or at the end. Transferred in cost. Do you still remember the cost flow in a process cost system? The work in process 1 will be transferred to work in process 2 and so on until it is completed. Look at the diagram. Transferred in cost. In Department 1, completed units will be transferred out into the Department 2 and would be the started units for the Department 2. Cost incurred in a previous process that are carried forward as part of the product's cost when it moves to the next process. Recording the journals. 1. Direct material cost involved in the process. 2. Conversion cost involved in the process. 3. Transferred in cost or transferred out cost. If there is any further process. Transferred in cost or transferred out cost. Finished unit. Production cost report. Production cost report. Definition: an internal document for management that shows production quantity and cost data for production department. There are 5 steps in preparing a production cost report. Step items. Quantities: 1 physical units. 2 equivalent units. Cost: 3 cost incurred. 4 cost per equivalent unit. 5 cost reconciliation. Total cost in step 1 equals total cost in step 2. Total cost in step 3 equals total cost in step 5. This is the format for the production cost report. For Department 1 or A. Production cost report Department B. This is the format for the production cost report. For Department 2 or B. Pay attention to the started units in the production here. The amount of the units is brought from the finished and transferred out. Previous department. One. Explain equivalent unit. 2. Define product cost report. 3. Give the formula to find the equivalent unit. 4. Explain the transfer in cost. The end of Chapter 8. Thank you and stay safe. Stay at home.